Okay, can you hear me?
What's up? It's Schmitty. Another episode of Talkin Schmit. Today on the program we have RS2 Ray Stevens II. Who is Ray, you ask? Well, he's probably been in more bands than Johnny Manic, I could say that. Maybe. But most notably, Ray is a member of the Drunk Injuns, Los Olvidados. He produced the second McRad album. Let's hear some of his stories. Ray almost died on us too with the COVID. He was in the hospital, had a serious stint, and we're lucky to have him still alive. So it was good catching up with Ray. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Remember, 169 is on its way. Screaming Lord Salba will have his say.
Head on down to your local shop. Ask Blood Wizard Skateboards. Or visit bloodwizard.com for all your conjuring needs.
Tickety-tack.
Hey, it's Corey at Blue Plate, 3218 Mission Street. Come see us. Meatloaf, fried chicken, deviled eggs, Dollar Olympia beers. We're here every day of the week. We got a garden and we got smiles on our faces. Come let us make you happy.
This is Ray Stevens, and you're listening to Talkin Schmit. Ow!
Holy cannoli.
It's cool, like tonight is the night.
Yeah.
Big dog's in.
Do we really want to be here?
Everything's changed.
We on? Schmitty?
Talkin Schmit.
Talkin Schmit, dude!
You gonna come out different.
Shit my pants, lad.
Your Rolodex is fucking deep.
Holy shit.
It's about the ones.
Who is this guy? Thinks he's tough shit.
What's up?
Come on, Schmitty, what the fuck?
Tell the skateboard police to come get me.
What is happening?
Let's hear it for Greer Skatepark. Yay! All right, listen up, everybody. I'm on 280 South. Yes, I do know the way to San Jose. We're going deep in the cuts today with fucking one of the originals in my mind of skate rock. This is Ray Stevens. What's up, Ray?
Yeah, Schmitty. Doing good, man. Hanging in there.
You are.
Laying low. Really stoked on this, dude. Getting some pretty stoking news lately. Chef Pierre got a leg tattoo. Ray Stevens 2, Israel Forbes artwork.
Oh, I think I did see that on the Instagram.
So sick, man. Blew my mind. You know,
Right.
I've been here forever. And, you know, I see him every now and then. You know, I like to buy artwork off of my friends, and I get stuff from him, and he does some pretty amazing stuff. So right on, Pierre.
Shout out.
It really stoked me out. You know, I've known that cat forever, you know.
Pierre's the best.
Yeah, legend, dude. He's the legend, you know.
You in San Jose, yeah? Or Campbell? Or
Actually, yeah, Santa Clara.
Santa
Just
Clara.
right up the street, around the corner from Santa Clara University.
Are you pissed about Great America?
You know what? Whatever. It's make America great again. I don't know. That
Yeah, who cares?
was great.
The 49ers will probably build a parking garage over there or something.
Somebody's getting in there. Everybody's barging it. But, you know, the Bay Area is still great. You know, like I spent some years in San Francisco when I went to school up there. And I lived right behind Bruno's Banks.
Oh,
on,
yeah.
20th and Cap. And Steve Olson lived right around the corner.
No way.
Yeah, he lived up here for a little while. And we'd go skate and party and hit Bruno's 3 a.m. And yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty lucky to, you know, basically grew up here, but I was an Army brat before. I lived in San Jose. You know, I was born in Yuma, Arizona. And I got my name, Johnny Yuma. It's actually a Johnny Cash song for the Drunk Injuns, but mainly because I was born in Yuma.
Oh, okay.
My dad was in the Army, so we lived in Germany, Virginia, you know, like all over the place. And then finally, when he settled down after Vietnam, he's all, where do you guys want to live? Because, you know, he's been dragging us all over the world, you know. We had relatives in San Jose, and we would come up here because like be 120 in Yuma, and we'd come to San Jose and it'd be in the 80s,
Yeah.
And we'd have hoodies on and windbreakers. People thought we were freaks. You know, like seriously, 40-degree difference. You know, seriously. So, yeah.
How old were you at that time?
I guess about 5th grade. You know,
5th grade. Okay.
75. But see, this is a trip. When my dad went to Vietnam, like in 73, my mom wanted us all to be together, you know, family-wise. So we basically moved in with my grandma and grandpa, you know, on the south side. And my neighbor right behind me was Keith Meek, right?
Damn.
Dude, he was a brat. Him and his brother, they got plenty of stories about, they would throw walnuts and rocks at me and my sister and my grandma and shit, you know?
Oh.
They were punks, dude, original punks. And, so whatever. So, yeah, and whatever. I just knew him like that, and I really thought his name was Mike Fink, right? But it's Keith Meek, of course.
Yeah. So
then my dad came home from Vietnam. We bought a house in the way south side, and then by that time, is when I kind of started skating, and then guess who lived behind me again, dude? But 2 houses down, Keith Meek.
What? He's following you.
Dude, seriously. I told my sister, oh, that guy Mike Fink lives around here. And I'd go skate by his house doing nose wheelies, and he'd skate by my house doing handstands.
No way.
We were showing off. So, but that was my original like skate partner, you know, but I'd known him even before skateboarding.
Was your first skateboard before San Jose or in San Jose?
No, it was in San Jose because like my grandparents were taking care of this ranch, like in Saratoga, and there was actually like cows and horses and shit over there, you know.
Yeah,
real nice, you know.
I spent my first 4 years in Saratoga.
Is that real?
Okay, yeah, you know, it's kind of farmy out there. Whatever. The guy that owned the house, they were never there. And so me and my sister would go on adventures, you know, we'd go fucking raid the house. And, you know, we weren't stealing nothing, but we'd go sit out on leather couches after swimming in their pool and shit, you know. So one day we were like just bored, and we go in their garage, and I found this old Bold Knight, like a skateboard, you know, with clay wheels. There was a parking, like a 2-car garage where their Cadillacs were, but were never there. Mm-hmm. And that's why I learned how to tic-tac.
Tickety-tack.
That whatever square of cement is what I skated all summer. And then one day I went down the street, and there was a downhill, and I'm like, I'm going to try this, you know? And just within about 20 yards or whatever, I got really bad speed wobs and just total shit, dude. Just helper, you know? But then I'm like, fuck it. I think I could do this, you know? And got back on, and maybe took a couple more slams, but I eventually pulled it by getting real low and holding onto the board when it would wob, you know?
Yeah.
And that's when I basically fell in love with skateboarding, you know? So this is like around 75. And pretty much the same time I got into music, really, because I was playing trumpet. And my grandpa had this electric bass. And I remember him kind of going, hey, who wants to learn? And my cousin, she grabbed it first, you know? I'm like, what the fuck? I got snaked, you know? And so I'm just like waiting and watching and waiting and watching. And then when she stopped practicing, I'm like, hey, Grandpa, I don't think Paula's practicing. You know what I mean? I will, though, you know? He's all, here, mijo. And, you know, I remember he showed me like how to tune it, right? And then that bass line, boom, 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 boom.
Oh, right. Kind of blues.
Across the strings, yeah. And then he's all, okay, look, if you do it this way, you can boogie woogie, don, 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 like how to swing it, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, sweet, you know what I mean? Like, and just different, very boom, 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 like timing and shit like that and feels and stuff, you know?
Uh-huh.
And my grandpa, he had like a really good ear. He played with the choir for years, and my mom said he played with mariachi bands and all kinds of shit, but he couldn't read a note, you know? He wasn't taught that way, you know? But he had a really good ear, and he really like helped me develop it, you know? And had a really good music teacher in junior high, you know, just like really like fortunate, like with my early musical stuff, you know? But the thing is when I started skating with Meekster is, you know, he eventually
You guys became friends?
Well, yeah. And the thing is, dude, it was just a trip because the house that my parents owned had a fish pond in it, right?
Oh, sick.
And that was the main thing. When I saw the house, I was already into skateboarding, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, I think this house is the best. Don't you, sis? You know, like, and we ended up getting it, but it was mainly because there was an empty fish pond that I wanted to skate, you know? And it was skatable. And we called it a pond, right? So like, so Meekster would come over, you know, once we became friends, and we would skate that shit, and we would take the buses like all over the valley, dude, like as far as it could go. And then we would skate another 3 miles or whatever, you know, heard about Los Altos Pool and had no idea where it was at, dude. Like seriously, no idea. Just like the sketchiest, it's by a mall or something like that. You know what I mean? That's it. And we would just go look all day, dude. We didn't even have enough money or enough forethought to bring food or water. You know what I mean? We're just kids.
Were you
know
just like bus to bus transfers?
Exactly. Yeah. And then usually what would happen is like on a Sunday, we would forget. And this happens so many times, Schmitty, forget that it stopped running at 6, you know? It's the summer and you're out. Nobody has a watch, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, damn, dude, we got to go. And I'm like, oh, the buses aren't running, you know? And like, you got to call your mom, Meekster. No way, I did last time. You call your dad or whatever. Yeah, I could call my dad once. And as soon as I hung up the phone, the bus showed up. So what do? We jump on the bus. Like idiots, right? So my dad still goes out there to pick us up, you know? And he calls my mom from out there. Where's my son or whatever? He's already home. Oh my God. I got in so much trouble.
Damn.
Like, not thinking. Like, what were we thinking? You know what I mean? But we were too busy skating and whatever, you know?
Were there any parks at that time?
This is kind of pre-parks.
Before Winchester and everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think maybe the first park might have been like Soquel.
Oh yeah, that one, the Banky one.
Yeah, or maybe Alameda. You know, that was definitely before Winchester. Yeah, like a lot of times, well, when the park started opening up, is when I was really getting into music. You know, and I was still skating, but not like hitting all the parks. You know what I mean? I'd go check it out or whatever, but really, I was practicing and really getting into music. You know, but still writing for sure. You know, but you know, it took money to go to the skate parks and pads and a ride and all that shit. You know what I mean? And I was saving money for bass strings and speakers and whatever. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, you know, and it wasn't like I wasn't into it. It was just like I was totally into music. You know. Okay. So, but around then, Meekster, you know, like so. Basically, what I'm getting at is when I started playing like rock and roll. One of the first bands I played with was Keith Meek's older brother, Brett. And I remember Brett, like, you know, growing up, and they would be making, you know, tinfoil, you know, toilet paper bongs and shit. And the Hendrix bootlegs and playing Montrose and just like, it's a whole new world to me, you know.
We used to use the aluminum can crush with the little foil over the poke the holes.
Exactly, dude. They were doing all that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And just heckling neighbors. We had this one guy that lived by us, and they would plug in a microphone into their stereo and turn the speakers at him and shit. Like same shit they were doing to me and my sister, you know, but like 8 years later, they're still like that, you know? So anyways, he was actually a year out of high school when I was a freshman, and they knew I played bass and they wanted me to play with them, you know? So it was like Pat Travers and some Zepp, you know, and just that kind of stuff, you know. And it was
this is like 6th or 7th grade, or
more like when I was a freshman, ninth grade.
High school.
You know, but I'd actually played in a band before that called Shock Treatment with some other dudes, and dude, the guy's sister actually worked for Jet Records, which was Electric Light Orchestra, and they might have had Cheap Trick and a bunch of cool bands, you know, like new wave bands. But the singer we had was like a junior high singer, dude. You know, I probably didn't even have pubes yet. You know what I mean? He wasn't gonna cut it, dude. You know, like so, like me and the drummers all, dude. You know, whatever with this band. You know,
where are you guys practicing in people's living rooms, garages?
This guy actually had a garage, dude. Like the first guys, the shock treatment.
We
You know,
put
we
up
actually went
carpet
on a
and
table. Well, yeah, dude, he had a PA. The guy had a Marshall half stack. You know what I mean? Like, we were impressed. There was even a drum riser for the drums, you know? And we met his sister, and she came in because, like I said, she worked for Jet Records. And she would have an armful of records and giving us records. Hey, listen to what these sound like, guys, and get back to me, you know?
yeah.
And she wanted to know, you know, it was like, sounds like 2020, like some kind of the power pop, like the Knack, you know, that LA kind of, you know, stuff that was happening late 70s, early 80s, whatever, you know. But we really thought like we had a chance of getting on this label, you know, like basically in my first band, you know what I mean?
We got this.
Seriously, but then we did this thing was on Channel 2B, which is a Gil Cable, and it was the Bobby Lopez talent show, right? Or Bob Lopez and his daughter, Bobby Lopez, was the presenter, you know, and we played on it. And we even had a couple originals, you know. We played a Cheap Trick and maybe Kiss and a couple originals. And my sister made me this pullover, and it was black and white leopard skin. I looked like Fred Flintstone, dude, with some new wave glasses and a haircut, you know. And then, like, the thing is, it's like they showed it for years, dude. For like on late night when they didn't have nothing to show, they would do that show.
Was
And
it
I would,
public access or something?
yeah, you know, like even like in high school, like, dude, hey, shock treatment, what's up, or whatever, you know, like. But like, but then like the thing with like Meekster, you know, happening, that kind of happened out of like a party band. And then, you know, we played this party and it was a bunch of dudes, you know, we're doing like punk rock or whatever, you know. And I remember getting wasted and going down on my knees and rocking out, you know, just whatever. But then, you know, like, hey, let's make this like a real band. And so, you know, it was Mike Fox, this guy, Chris Mollerin. He's a great skater, drummer, and I guess Mike Voss, and then Keith Meek.
You went to school with all these guys?
Yeah. Well, Mike Fox had already graduated. He graduated the first year. Santa Cruz was open. Yeah, in '76 he graduated. Meekster was a couple years older than me, like my sister's age, you know. And Mike Voss was my age. I've known him since junior high. And Chris Mollerin was Meekster's age. But yeah, so we're like, dude, we wrote some music. We need a song, dude. And Meekster's all, I don't know how to write lyrics. Well, you better figure it out, dude, you know, or whatever. So they had Mike Fox, well, fuck it, let's go get an ice cream at Walgreens, you know. We call it W. Al Greens. And so, you know, or Thrifties or whatever the fuck, you know.
Yeah. 25-cent cone.
Yeah, the double scoopers. Yeah. Triple if you want. 13 cents or whatever. You know? They came back and he's like, I got a song. And well, what is it, dude? And he had just seen an Enquirer, you know, Enquirer magazine at their stand. And it said Jackie O on the go, you know, Jackie Onassis.
Yeah.
And so that was his song, Jackie O on the go, Jackie O on the go, jet setter, jet set. Like that was it, dude.
Fucking so, double platinum.
Dude, so like whatever, you know, he was in the band for a minute there, and then you know, he was living in Santa Cruz, you know, Keith Meek, right?
Yeah. And he was living at SoCal, right? Or no?
Yeah, he was at the skate park, but
yeah,
you know, and he was kind of just before he was turning pro, you know. I don't know, it was just hard for him. He'd get stuck in San Jose and have to sleep on a couch and whatever, just have his backpack with him, you know what I mean? So I think he's just all, yeah, I'm gonna stay in Santa Cruz. I'm gonna go for the skateboarding thing, you know. And then Mike Fox, who I had met, like the first time I met him was kind of funny, dude. He used to work at this skateboard shop called Systems. And it was a rad shop, dude. And this guy, Howard, he made our guitar cabinets for us. And he actually made them for Black Flag and shit. Really good.
Oh, right.
Loud, you know. And he actually made a zine too called Forget It. He did a lot of shit, dude. And, you know, I recently found out he was a really rad skater. But by the time I met him, I guess he'd broken his knee or ankle twice and then kind of quit doing that. But he made skateboards and stuff, you know. But anyways, that's Howard Kvek, giving him props because he's like an underground legend.
Shout out to Howard.
Shout out.
Yeah, for real. those guys, knew Mofo from Winchester.
Okay, so Winchester's is open at this time.
Now it's like happening because Meekster's like was on their team or whatever, and then Mike Fox was like, hey, I know this dude from Winchester, Mofo.
Was he Mofo then? He was already Mofo?
Was Mofo,
Oh, okay. Did he work at Thrasher already or not yet?
Well, this is like, okay, so this is what's going on. So I had met him. I remember he was like, he was working at a record store in South San Jose. I think it was Rainbow Records or Record Factory or something like that. And this might have been 79, 80. And I knew about Joy Division, and I finally got, one of their records all crinkly import, you know what I mean? Like $5 or whatever, and I bring it to the counter and it's some dude with a bandana and a leather jacket, and some buttons and stuff. And he's just all, that's a good record. And I'm like, I know. Like, what the fuck? You thinking up, I don't know, like we thought he was or whatever, But I remember saying that to him, you know what I mean? Like, I had to be punk too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, he ended up being one of my best friends, still is, But yeah, and then when Mike like brought him to practice, and I'm like, do you work at Rainbow Records, dude? Or something like that, He's like, yeah, I did, or something, and like he didn't really talk to me much, and I was kind of intimidated, And he had showed up with like binders full of lyrics, dude, with pages sticking out. And I just was impressed. And when he went to take a leak, I took a look in there and I'm just like, oh, fuck, like.
Yeah. A little different than the old Meekster, huh?
Dude, yeah. It went from Meekster to Mofo, And then, like we played some good shows together, did some recording. But right around that time is when he started working for Thrasher. Right.
Oh, so it's like late 79-ish, probably, or early 80.
Early 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. By the second issue he was in. You remember BAM magazine?
Mm-hmm.
Bay Area Music.
Bay Area Music. Yeah.
They were free, right?
Yeah. They were those big, like papery ones.
Yeah. I'm like, why the fuck isn't this free? And how come it's so big? And how come it's not shiny like skateboarder? You know what I mean? But it was really like just going, how come this isn't free? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I first saw it, I looked at it. I thought it was cool, but like all those reasons came up. And, I wasn't rich. You know what I mean? $1's a buck, you know? But then like the next time I went in there, I'm like, fuck it, but initially I didn't buy it,
Right.
And for those reasons. I kind of didn't like that it was big. Because BAMs are kind of a hassle,
Yeah.
Usually had to fold them up to save them, and then the ink and shit, just like whatever.
And it's the same as like collecting vinyl. Like those 3/4 vinyls are cool, the 78s, but they're different. And then like when you're collecting shit, it's all out of whack. Like I like my shit like tight, like it's all the same size.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, even to this day, the first 10 issues are the big paper Thrasher ones. And I'm like, where the fuck do I put these? I got to put them in like a flatbed holder thing, like, and the rest of them are all like perfect, like, in unison.
Exactly. It should have been. I just think they should have did that from the beginning.
Well, they had no idea what they were doing. Mofo was the first one to tell you. He's like, somebody gave me a fucking camera and I just shot it. Like I didn't know what an f-stop was. I was like, this rolls.
Right. But I was buying like the New York Rocker. Damage, Slash, there was a lot of underground punk like newspapers like that, but they were thicker and they had a little bit more substance, you know what I mean? And I could pay in a couple bucks because they came from overseas or from New York or whatever. But it was like the whole BAM theory, how like, why the fuck is that free and this costs whatever, you know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
But I'm a skater and I wanted it, you know what I mean? So then, Mo started playing shows with us. And I think maybe the last show he played was the Black Flag Riot. And
what's the band?
So the band was Mike Voss and Mike Fox on lead and rhythm guitar. It was
like, is this the original Drunk Injuns or is this before that?
This was Los Olvidados. Which was like, Meekster was pre Los Olvidados. We didn't even have a name yet. You know what I mean? He had Jackie O on the go and maybe he had one more song, but we never like actually played any gigs or anything like that. but we were starting to work on it. It kind of got the ball rolling, you know what I mean? And then Mike Fox brought in Mofo, and then we started practicing at Chris Mullering's house. Then one day we shut up for practice, and all of our gear was on the lawn. I'm like, oh shit! I guess his mom doesn't want us to play anymore. It was harsh. Dude. It was harsh. So then my parents were cool and let us practice at our house, you know, and we turned the garage into a practice room because my mom was my mom was a school teacher and she had tons of books, and that was perfect, like for sound, you know. But we were loud, dude. You know, we were fucking loud.
Do you remember one of the first songs that came together?
There's a song called "Bad Kid."
Bad Kid.
Yeah.
And that's a Los Olvidados song?
Yeah, but I think you could probably find it on the Drunk Injuns album. So Los Olvidados with Mofo, we didn't really record anything. But those songs that we did with Mofo turned into Drunk Injuns songs. So what happened is they told Mo, hey, look, dude, you're coming into work late, you know, every fucking day, dude. We want you here at 8. And he was coming in or whatever, you know. And then he would have to sleep on the couch to make it to work on time and just whatever, dude. It sounded kind of harsh, you know?
Dude, he was like on Swenson's floor or like just even at the plant, just like.
Right. You know, the time that I did go see him when he lived at Swenson's, he was living on the kitchen floor, dude. And I'm like, fuck, I don't think this is like a very glamorous job, you know what I mean? And the shipyards was cold, dude.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So like if he was sleeping on the couch, man, it's like Alcatraz or whatever. You know? Feel bad for him, but they were going for it, you know, and they were partying a lot. So I'm just like, okay, I can see this, you know, being like pretty rock and roll-ish, you know what I mean? So
he had to stop the band so he could stay at Thrasher.
Right. They basically said it's the band or your job. But within fucking weeks, he came up with the Drunk Injuns idea, which was basically playing those songs in masks, you know, and saying that we were from North Dakota. We made up this whole backstory, dude. In our first gig, dude, we played on other people's gear. So people can go, oh, that's Ray's bass or whatever. Like we were playing on other people's gear. You know what I mean?
So it was really undercover, like no trace.
Exactly, dude. And I think, Schmitty, one of those gigs, because there was the on Broadway on upstairs and the MAB downstairs.
Yep.
That Drunk Injuns played upstairs and Los Olvidados played downstairs. So people couldn't put that together. You know what I mean?
Whoa.
Like did the little extra effort. You know what I mean? But anyways, but nobody knew except KT.
KT knew?
He knew, and he kept it under wraps. Because he knew us. We'd played like his brother Steve Thatcher's parties in Los Gatos. You know, they have these parties out there. It's pretty epic, you know.
What about Blackheart? Was he in the scene yet?
Yeah, I'd see him here and there. You know, I didn't really get to know him till later. You know, but I always had mad respect for him. You know, and all those guys were like incredible hecklers, dude.
I bet.
You got to be able to hang, dude.
To this day, man.
Seriously.
Yeah.
You know, like you hang with my friends and like, oh, fucking watch out, Ray's here. But I ain't nothing compared to those guys, dude. They shut the fuck up whenever I'm done, you know, or we're going to take notes, you know what I mean? And like Matt Etheridge, he's one of the fastest, funniest. Just all those guys are really like sharp, you know. Besides having really good ears musically, like Chuck, dude. Like, so that was the first band I ever produced. So I went to recording school in San Francisco, and it used to be a studio where like Big Brother and the Holding Company and Santana, like all those 60s SF bands. It was called Coast Recordings. Right?
Where was that?
It's on Harrison Street, like 3rd and Harrison. And one of my teachers, this guy, Fred Cachero, and dude, he produced like Santana. Like, dude, look him up, dude. The guy's amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But his whole thing was like, man, get the band tight, get it to sound good before you even put a microphone up. You know, get that sound, find that amp, make sure it's the right guitar, you know, and those guys could sing in tune and get them tight. You know what I mean? And talk about what the song is and everybody have an idea of what's going on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. More of like a fluid thing. And then find the right room for them. Yeah, it might be outdoors. It might be a barn. It might be somebody's bedroom. You know what I mean? Like all that matters. You know what I mean? And then the microphones, and then how hot you record it, and then how you mix it. And then like, the main thing about producing is to create a mood and sustain it. That was his main thing.
And are you old enough to absorb that, or are you just kind of like, whatever, we're going to do our
hell
thing?
no, dude. I mean, I've been deep in music since I could hear.
Okay.
Like my grandpa.
So you're like anxious to learn. Like this guy knows what he's talking about. I gotta.
Dude, on the same token, not everybody that knows what they're doing can teach.
Right.
And a lot of those teachers sucked. Some of them you could smell they've been drinking vodka for breakfast or whatever. You know what I mean? And just like don't have any kind of plan. And really the way you learn is by doing it, But really, how does the band sound live? And that's always been my bullshit detector, like, look, that band's live, great. It's going to be easy to work with them in the studio,
right?
Not, because then it's still personalities and stuff. So right around then, Beware Records started. Brian Ware, did you ever know Brian?
Yeah.
The Deluxe and all that?
Yeah.
That's where Beware came from, Brian Ware.
Right.
And Terry worked for him, and she was super cool. And I just graduated. And they're like, look, dude, we got a job for you, McRad in Philadelphia. And one day they flew in and then Thrash is all, oh, by the way, Drunk Injuns, McRad's using your gear. So they're like, okay, and your rehearsal studio, they just shoved him in there,
No way. Did you know who Chuck Treese was from skateboarding at that time or no? Barely.
Like seen his picture on the cover maybe, and I think I'd heard that record that came out before that. God, it's slipping my mind. But their first record.
Is the first one the one that's got like Yo Tom Prevent That Tragedy? Dave,
no, that's the one I produced.
No way. Okay, that's the one.
Yeah, Weakness and all that.
Weakness, yeah.
Oh, Dominant Force. That's the name of their first record.
Okay.
And I maybe heard it once. And somebody just said, oh, yeah, these guys are trying to be Bad Brains because they play a little bit of reggae and stuff, That was all I'd known about them, but didn't judge them or anything. That's all I'd heard about, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they came into San Francisco. I didn't know what to do. It was my first job producing, But then I just thought, well, what do we do at band practice to get tight? You know what I mean? So I would just go, okay, play a song. And they'd start playing. And as soon as I heard something, I would go, stop. Okay, just drums and guitar. And they looked at me like, what the fuck? Who's this guy? You know what I mean? And then they'd do it. I'm like, stop. Okay, just drums. And then he'd play it. And I'm like, okay. And then they would all be all, oh, what are you doing there, Tommy? Or whatever, He's like, oh, I've always done this. I'm like, no, that's not what you do. And you're like, yeah, Ray heard it. There was a mistake there. You know what I mean? Just little things like that. Just tighten it up,
Yeah.
And I really had one day, you know what I mean?
Wow.
So I spent like 8 hours in the rehearsal studio with them, and still they're kind of like, who the fuck is this? And then we're just chit-chatting afterwards, just tallying off, And I'm like, hey, can I see your guitar? And I started jamming on Chuck's guitar, and Chuck's all, oh, okay, you can play, huh? And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm a musician. And just started talking about what he does. All, oh, okay. Like they didn't let them know anything.
And that was all like the financed through Beware?
Yeah, Beware, which is basically high speed. So then like my first day, Beware, like what drops us off, like picks up the guys from the hotel. It was on Union Street. It's this guy, Peter Miller. And the reason I picked Peter Miller, because I did my research, they said pick a studio, was because the Avengers recorded there was Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols.
Sick.
And he produced some stuff there.
At the same place on Union?
Yeah. And that's why I went there. And that's actually where Drunk Injuns recorded too.
Oh, rad.
And he actually played in a band that used to open for the Beatles. So whatever, did whatever, to the left Tom, floor Tom, whatever, And then I'm like, okay, dude, it's noon. Everybody take half an hour, go get some lunch, be ready. We're going to record as much as we can today, And then, so whatever, half an hour comes around, everybody's back, except the drummer, right? And I'm like, what the fuck? And this is before cell phones and shit,
Yeah.
So you can dig up the phone number for the hotel, call information, call on it. Nobody picks up the phone, you know what I mean? And dude, this like a producer's job is to produce.
Whoa, that was heavy.
I'm just like really like panicking now. You know, this is my first gig. Fucking haven't even recorded nothing yet. And I seriously go door to door down every store and shop on Union Street. And, you know, lingerie stores, dude, pizza places, anywhere. Where is the dude, you know? And then I open the door to a bar and there he is. Poor dude is fucking passed out all the way at the end of the bar. And I'm like, no, dude, like fucking everybody. Dude, it's so bummed. So whatever I get him, sling him over my shoulder, drag him back, and he's kind of yelling at the dude. You know, I'm like, I'm bummed. You know what I mean? Because this is coming back to me, you know? So you get back there, and then Chuck, it's how amazing he is. He's all, oh, I got it, dude. I'm like, what do you mean? He's all, play drums. I'm like, what do you mean? He's all, dude, I wrote all these songs. He's all, I know like what to do. The bass player in Chuck did all the basics and actually saved like 2 songs. So John could do it the next day, the drummer, right? So basically that's it. And I don't even know if he gets credited on that, but Chuck played about 99% of the drums on that McRad album.
Makes sense. He's so fucking multi-talented.
Amazing.
Going back one little detail. I don't know if we really clarified, because in my mind, Los Olvidados is Drunk Injuns with a different singer. Is that right? So when Mo went to Thrasher, did somebody come in to replace him, and then you guys got the name Los Olvidados and did that record? And then when
that's pretty much exactly it. And the guy that replaced him was the lead guitar player, Mike Voss.
Oh, that's Mike Voss. So you didn't get a new guy. He just stepped it up and started singing as well.
Naturally. He's just like, I'll do it. And was amazing. You know what I mean? A super great entertainer. And like, you know, I was telling my wife this the other day, that the first time we played, so we had this instrumental called Skate or Die. And it was on, you know, it was pretty rad actually. So we did that as an intro. And this is at a place called Briner Hall, like in downtown Campbell. And I look over at Mike Fox and I'm like, where's Mike? Like, I don't see him. Like, where is he? And Mike's, I'll just play, you know, and I started the bass intro or whatever. And then Voss comes in the window behind the drums. Like it's just some hall show. But that was his big entrance, dude, from behind the drums through the window outside, dude. And I'm like, whoa, like immediately I'm blown away, you know, immediately. And then he started wrapping his arm up and like shooting the microphone up and just doing like Iggy Pop and Stiv Bators and Dead Boys and like super entertaining. And nobody had even seen that, dude. And when I played, I watched him, you know what I mean? Because he was so entertaining. And then the other thing that I learned recently was a lot of the lyrics were written by Mike Fox. Most of them are written by Mike Fox.
Who's another talented fucking...
Dude, amazing guitar player.
Yeah.
He's playing drums. And he's really good on drums, you know.
Really? Mike Fox is?
Yeah.
Sick. I never knew that.
A lot of people are like going, fuck, I'm bored of guitar. I'm playing drums now or whatever, you know. Like, and then, like I said, Mo was just like, fuck, man, I still want to play. And then we got Drunk Injuns going kind of at the same time.
But how long was it from the when Los Olvidados got together? How long was it from that moment till you guys played your first gig?
Maybe not that long. Maybe probably about 6 months or so, you know. We did some woodshedding, but, you know, like we just like to practice a lot, you know what I mean?
And were all those songs created with this nucleus, or were some of them with Mo that you guys just took as he left, or no?
Well, you know, like one of the first gigs, I don't know if you remember, there was a zine called The Punk Globe, and it was this chick, Ginger Coyote, right? And she actually had a sex change. Her name used to be George.
Okay.
And really big, you know.
Oh, I don't know that one.
You know, and it's funny, dude, because she really loved soap operas and she really loved punk rock. And here's the funny thing, Schmitty.
Like we all do.
The thing is, it was like she would put a lot of that in her zine, but a lot of those people from Hollywood and soap operas would come visit her and hang out, dude. Like through her, I met Ed Asner, I met Matt Dillon, countless like soap opera people there, like all the time.
Oh, okay.
And I remember once even, and this didn't have anything to do with her, but I was upstairs at the on Broadway, and Rick James cruised upstairs. No doubt it was him, and he had two chicks on each, arm, and they both looked like high school prom queens or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember he was drinking wine, right? And at the time, we just like to bum people out. You know what I mean? So we were smoking cigars. You know what I mean? And just people hate that. You know what I mean? It's like,
the big smell. Yeah.
Just whatever. Just get people bummed. And so I would go buy those really nice cigars. They came like in vials, like test tubes, right? And like whatever. I think and Rick James walks by, and my friend, I remember he went up to me, he's all, "Hey Rick, what do you think about punk rock?" Like, because he talked really fast, and Rick's all, without skipping a beat, "Gotta have it." And I'm like, "Yeah." And then he set his wine down and walked out. Then I'm like, "Fuck!" Grabbed his wine and I poured it in that vial and put it in the cup or the cap on. Then went home, put a piece of cake, Rick James's wine. And I had it forever, dude. But eventually it dried up and it was still red, but I still had it forever, dude.
That's awesome.
But dude, that's the way like shit would be there. You know what I mean? And even before that, it was even like crazier, before I got into punk, because the Mab was like the West Coast, CBGBs or whatever, or at least San Francisco.
The Mab on Broadway. That was
so much. Actually, to Gavin O'Brien about punk rock, like he's all LA punk rock, huh? LA was the best punk rock. And I'm like, no, dude, and SF was. I really love the Avengers. I mean, they were badass, and you watch that Sex Pistols show, that last show in Winterland, they fucking blew away the Pistols. What I mean? They were really deal and really saying something.
Did you go to Winterland?
No, I never went to that, but I know Mike went to that show, and
that was before me too.
Yeah, it was. I missed a lot of early stuff, dude. But believe me, I had the magazines and stuff, and knew what I was missing. You know what I mean? I listened to a lot of, FM radio and KFJC and stuff, and was totally down with a lot of stuff for a long time before. I bought a lot of records at Tower, and
yeah, same. Was your dad's name Ray Stevens?
Yeah, but not the singer, because there's this guy Ray Stevens that sings "Everything Is Beautiful," and Ahab the Arab, and Guitarzan, and The Streak, and he did a lot of novelty songs. And there was a big time wrestler named Ray Stevens.
Oh, really?
And dude, his big opponent was Pat Patterson.
Oh, yeah.
And all my life, I would hear that shit. "Hey, where's Pat Patterson? You better watch out, Ray," or whatever. Or, "Hey, everything is beautiful," or whatever. I'm just like, yeah, okay, dude. It's neither one of those.
But so that's why you're RS2, because your dad's RS1?
Yeah, Ray Stevens the second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
The first time I went to Uva's Dam, I don't know if you ever went to Uva's.
Yeah.
But that's a Bay Area legend. It's still there.
Yeah.
That I think it was at the Meekster or whatever. And my dad had a deal with us, like if we did yard work or a certain amount of work, that he would drive us places instead of us take the bus and get stuck and him having to come pick us up anyways, So he took us out to Uva's. And I remember there was huge letters and it said, "No skateboarding," this huge, like 20-foot letters, dude. And then some smart ass went out there with some spray paint and put "Go skateboarding," the G over the N, And, dude, I'm like, oh, this is punk. Oh, okay, this is what skateboarding is really about. You know what I mean? Like, this little thing changes the whole meaning.
Right.
But I do remember that being hard as hell to skate, dude. And Blackheart and KT going all the way down, dude. Like into the water if they want, you know what I mean?
So
and
sick.
it's like, it still to this day, that's like impossible. These fucking pinner ass boards. I remember a buddy years later, because he worked for Motorbelt, and every time he would hit that tranny, the base plate would break. And we'd always go, "These are better," or whatever. But I mean, Uvas is no joke, dude. Just like Bruno's bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But downhill and fucking rocks and tan bark or whatever, dead frogs,
I'm guessing it's Winchester, but what's your first, how do you become aware of the phenom Steve Caballero? Steve Caballero.
So I get this buddy,
Caballero.
yeah. So I got this buddy named Ray Ye, and he owned the Uptown, and he was in a band I played in a while, and he's like really super good guy, skater, musician, and everything. And he's a doctor now, but at the time he had 2 ramps. He had a big U ramp and then a mini ramp, and he ended up giving that to me, and that was my ramp. Besides having the pond, I had a mini ramp. I had a little complex, you know.
Sick.
You know, like
where was that?
South San Jose, like Santa Teresa Coddle area.
Okay.
And like we went to Burnell Junior High, Santa Teresa High School.
Was it down by Montague kind of, or no?
No, further south.
Further. Okay.
Yeah, way south. Because Montague is actually like North San Jose.
Oh.
And where we lived is like Morgan Hills, the next town.
Like almost to Gil. Okay.
Yeah, it's south. You know, it's out there. Yeah, there was like we would find pools. You know what I mean? Like backyard pools. There was a lot of ditches we would find. You know what I mean? Like I said, I had ramps. You know, we had little wooden lean-to things. I had a power box, you know, and a PG&E box that we put a piece of plywood in front. And Meekster and I would hit that, you know, and right before you get to it, you would say a skater's name, Greg Weaver. And you had to fucking get the Greg Weaver style, grab the nose or whatever. Tony Alva, Jay Adams, whatever, Bob Muir, you know, Biniac or whatever, you know.
Uh-huh.
That was really early, like knowing that you had to have style, you know what I mean? And it wasn't like just what you rode or whatever, but you know, argue about what's better, OJs or Road Wiaters forever, not even know it's the same company. You know, you know what I mean? Just like,
yeah.
Whatever, you know, I remember meeting Jeff Ho once and buying a Zephyr, like before there was Z-Flex, you know, or Zephyr. He made these wooden 7-ply boards that had rocker, which is a low center of gravity one, you know, from surfboards. And Meekster and I went to Gremick for the very first time, and we almost got hit by a car. We were so excited. We ran across the street. And as soon as we go in the shop, they start yelling at us. We're almost getting hit by a car. And we're like, what the fuck? You should be welcoming us, you know?
Yeah.
A couple seconds later, Jeff Ho walks in with a bunch of boards, you know? And we knew who he was already from buying surfer magazines, dude. Because we were so hungry. There was only one skate magazine available to us, at least, you know? We didn't know about Skateboard World or whatever, you know? But we could buy Surfer or Surfing or whatever. And all of those, the way those guys stood and shit was like really important to us, dude. You know, like style was big.
Yeah.
You know, really big. And so when we saw Jeff Ho, we already knew about rocker and low center of gravity and shit from reading stories in Surfer magazine and stuff. And dude, really reading every word of Skateboarder magazine. You know, fucking Valsurf ads, and know when something came up 25 cents. You know, we would know the price changes on those catalogs, the little words, everything, dude. But so yeah, like I bought one of those boards and I loved it, dude. And I remember Meekster he had a Logan. He's all, hey, would you sign my board? And Jeff Ho's all, a Logan? You know, like, why do you want me to sign that, dude? Buy one of my boards and I'll sign it, you know?
Yeah. But wait, so how did you meet Cab though?
Ray Ye, sorry, dude. It's gonna happen a lot, dude.
I was like, wait, I know Cab's gonna pop up in the backyard of a pool session or something.
You managed to get him out of that story. So Ray Ye told me one day, he's all, dude, this guy Steve Caballero is coming over, and I'd never heard of his name. Like at that point, I wasn't really skating the parks. You know what I mean? But going over to Ray's house and skating every now, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of casual. And I'm not sure if I met Steve that day or saw him skate that day. But like one of the first Los Olvidados gigs, we heard about a pool that night, the Los Olvidados guys, right? And then it was by Capitol Drive-In. Fuck, I forget the name of the pool, but like it matters now. But so we get there and we hear people skating, right? And we're like, oh shit, locals are here. Well, fuck it. You know, we're going to skate this pool. So we hop the fence and it's Corey, Gavin, Graham, John Insco, Cab, Bosch. There's a crew there, at least 6 of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we're like, uh-oh. And they're like, whoa, what are you guys doing here? And we're just trying to play it cool. We're like, somebody told us about this pool, Like, dude, rad show last night. Yeah, man, we all went to your show. And we're like, oh, shit. Like, we were totally welcomed. You know what I mean? Instead of it being like vibes, they were super cool. And they were stoked that Los Olvidados was at their pool, And we're stoked we're at some pool where everybody was cool, And Cab was one of those guys there. And then he started hanging out with the band and hopping in our van as like a roadie when we would go to shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah, early on. And then one of those other guys, Eric Bosch, whose brother Craig later joined and played drums in the faction, started being our roadie, and going to a lot of shows with us. And Cab would go to a lot of shows with us.
Huh.
And one day Cab's like, hey, I'm going to start a band, can you help us? And I went over to Bosch's house, and I think they were called like Missing Children or Forgotten Children or something like that. They had stickers before they even had a song. I had one of their stickers, and I went over there, and they were pretty bad, you know what I mean? But I'm just like, hey, try to play this, and just kind of just left them alone. Basically would tune their guitars up and sit around and kind of let them do their thing, and they went through all their different, versions. And, pretty soon they had a band, that had a lot of different versions, like the early faction. The drummer ended up playing guitar and just different people coming and going,
Mm-hmm.
And, it's still in Los Olvidados. And then when Los Olvidados broke up, Stevie had just been to Japan with Pal Team, and he bought a Walkman. And he had a cassette of the Adolescents, the Blue album, classic, right?
Yeah.
That 2-guitar sound. And he's all, that's what the faction needs, 2-guitar. And let's get Ray Stevens to play bass. You know what I mean? And it was pretty funny because this guy, Craig Ramsey, who used to be in the Kingpins, the drummer, and he had his own zine, the manager for the faction. And he would just randomly send me packages of faction stickers or whatever. And then finally, he just gave me a phone call because he was managing the factions. All, hey, Ray, faction's thinking about going to, 2 guitars. Would you be interested in playing bass? I'm like, well, can I put out records and tour? Which is what Los Olvidados never got to do. That album didn't come out till 20 years later.
Yeah.
Like Jello wanted to put out.
It only came out on CD, right? It never came out on vinyl, or is there?
No, it came out on vinyl. It was just a small run. It sold out quick.
Uh-huh.
But Jello originally, that I didn't find out till way later, wanted to put out Los Olvidados like as his first release, like on Alternative Tentacles. Like Jello loves Loso. He would jump on our van and get a ride home because he lived, I don't know, by the airport or something.
Jello?
Yeah, he would hang out when we'd play and just kind of go, hey, can I get a ride home? Like knowing that we were going that way. You know what I mean? And I don't know. He's just always been cool with us. But what I'm saying is he would have released a record then, back in the day, which I think would have way changed things for Loso. I don't know. Maybe not. Whatever. I don't know. But whatever. So, that the record finally came out 20 years, the one with Ruben on the cover.
Right.
And whatever. The faction was cool. And then they asked.
Yeah, what were your thoughts on the faction? Like as they, when their first album comes out, are you kind of like, this is like, is it kind of like Steve Caballero's this big pro skater and the band is getting acknowledged through that? Or are you like, these guys are good?
Well, dude, I mean, I didn't necessarily think they were good, but I thought, like when they first started playing, dude, they were scrappy as hell. You know what I mean? And when Los Olvidados first started playing, we weren't, because we would shed it a lot. I'm not blowing smoke or nothing. I'm just saying that we were tight. You know what I mean? Really hard, like I said, like on our sound, and got the amps right and got everything right. And luckily we had good singers, but like I would tease a faction that Adam used to have this amp called the Bullfrog, or as a cabinet. And it was like fiberglass, and it was 300 pounds, dude. It was heavy, and
That's Adam Baum, right?
Right. And he had a Marshall, which was cool. He had an SG, which was cool. But I mean, listen to the AUK. I mean, really, it's classic, and people don't even care. But like, we wanted to hear like chunk, you know what I mean? At least like AC/DC sound. And I know that's what Adam liked too, but that wasn't the sound they were getting.
You can, yeah. What's crazy to me though is like that was a lot of information already that we just talked about, but it was in a short period of time. I mean, this is the beginning of skate rock. Like Mo basically created skate rock and put together that first compilation with Los Olvidados. I think the Faction was on the first one, right? Or yeah. So like all that's happening like what, like 1981 or something.
Oh, that was like when that came out was 83.
83.
So shit had been going on already, you know. And I know JFA had been doing their shit.
And JFA and Big Boys.
Right. Big Boys, JFA, you know, those guys were doing their shit without actually calling it skate rock.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Even though, yeah, there's skateboards on the cover and whatever, they weren't saying
Aggression. Were they pretty early?
That's a good question, dude. I'm not really sure.
I gravitated. I didn't know who they were, but I saw that album cover and I was like, I need it.
Yeah. What is this? I got to get it.
Skateboarding, you know, on the cover is like buying back then.
And at that point, I was just buying anything that even sounded weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, China White. What's that? I better check that out. Step or just whatever, you know, like, hey, and you just go, oh, it's on Posh Boy. I guess it's going to be good. You know what I mean? Oh, it's on TSL's label or whatever. You just kind of put shit together or like, oh, that guy produced it. I was always looking at producers who produced it. You know, at least it's going to sound good or it might sound like this. Or maybe it might not sound like that at all. You know what I mean? But just always have like a kind of open mind about what you're going to listen to, you know? And I think that's like what San Francisco punk did for me because there's so much weird shit, dude. You know, Flipper, Mutants, fucking just so many like weird bands that you would see and then like eventually kind of like, you know, Sleepers and whatever, like some shits. It's fucking way more downer than Joy Division and shit. You're like, fuck, this is coming from SF. This is killer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like Sleepers from San Jose. You know, like some heavy shit has come out of this area, the whole Bay Area.
Hell yeah. I mean, when I was like in high school, we would take the bus up to the farm every week and it was like Verbal Abuse, DRI, and those two bands would play almost every week. And then there would be like 5 other bands. And that's how you kind of would discover like False Prophets are coming through town, whoever, Bad Brains, you know, you're like psyched, but like Verbal Abuse must have played like a gazillion times, you know, it was insane. But
sure.
Was there a single incident that like the rug got pulled under from you guys? Like I know in the beginning Drunk Injuns was like only KT knows, but is there somehow it leaks out and kind of everyone found out at one point, or did it just gradually, or like,
you know, the trash column, you know, whatever, Stesic and E and Mo would just throw in whatever, it literally trash, you know, and Mo, like after that first gig, thought it'd be fun to say, hey, the Drunk Injuns died in a 7 wagon pile up or whatever, you know? And then the next time we played, it was all, oh yeah, well the sons of the Drunk Injuns came out and played for their dads and they got hurt and whatever, just stories. People would believe it. You know what I mean? Like fucking everybody would believe it because you don't really know, is this real or true or it's trash, but what is trash? You know what I mean?
And Mo had the power of the mag, but like, do people put together that it's connected or not at all?
I think, I mean, like the checks were even sent to Ron Hadley, who was in Beyond Possession in Canada. And then he would send them back to Mofo or something like elaborate.
Whoa.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like really like trying to, because Mo didn't want to get fired. You know what I mean? And if you think about it, that if the mag would have been cool, you know, from the get-go, they could have way capitalized on it, you know, instead of it being like some big secret or whatever. It could just be some other arm of Thrasher's, you know, ability to promote and whatever, you know.
Well, the I mean, the priority is always skateboarding though with those guys. Like it's like music. We put 2 pages in the mag, but it's like they want, you know, Mo's got to be there on time and all that. Those are the stories I kept hearing. Is like Mo would show up late. I mean, Mo was telling me some funny shit. At that time, it was so early. Like nobody thought about like we better get these people to sign. Like nobody has the rights to any of that stuff. That's why, like, there's some amazing, that first, like, what is it, 6 to 8 different cassettes. Like, imagine just having produced that and having the rights to it. Like, that, some of that shit is so epic and iconic. I mean, it's been played in our ears through all the years in the sessions, Kennedy Warehouse, you know, it's like.
Yeah. I don't know if you know, Schmitty, but at one point I sat down with Fausto for hours interviewing to be editor for Thrasher.
Oh, no.
At one point, I don't know, you know, like.
While KT was there?
Well, it's when Phelps was there. And I don't know if Fausto just wanted to scare Jake or like just really give him the option, like, do you want to be here, dude? But he interviewed me for the job.
What do you think, Colin?
We talked about a lot of ideas, you know? And one idea I had was like, hey, in the middle of the mag, make it turn into Thrasher for girls. You know what I mean? But if it was 50-50, dude, half of our planet is women, right? Chicks are finally accepted in skateboarding now.
Yeah.
But it was like 20 years ago that I talked to him, you know, at least. And I was super honored that he's even talking to me, that I'm, you know, they're even considering me, you know. But like ultimately, it wasn't for me. And, you know, even when I worked for Santa Cruz, they kind of had the same kind of idea, even though they did have like a little division for girls. It was super small. But I'm just all, dude, why are you ignoring half the sales? Well, whatever. Maybe that's just out there thinking or whatever. But
no, but being out there, and especially like you worked at the skate park, you worked at Grier for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like that was such a place where all kinds of people would come through, and you would see girls come. I mean, there were girl skaters when we were kids.
Yeah.
It's not just happening now. Like they've been around. It was just like now it's becoming accepted.
Right.
But we always thought the girls were rad. Like the girls that could like come in and have style and like carve the bowl and stuff. You're like that. I mean, it was cool. It was always like, it's a slippery slope to even talk about some of this stuff. But like, even with racism and everything, like we always talk about like, I mean, me and Pastors were talking about it. It was like, Javante wasn't a good black skater. He was just a good skater. Like we didn't look at it like that, you know? And like, I mean, that's a huge discussion and a rabbit hole and everything, but like.
Well, I mean, and you can't just say like, oh, a skater is like this these days, because it's just like saying, oh, a guy that drives a car is obvious like this. It's like, dude, every kind of person skates. But I don't know. But getting back to like skateboarding, you know, like when I lived in San Francisco, man, I had a great time because got to skate, you know, like the, you know, Bruno's Banks and Beacon's. And
I didn't even know you lived in SF. That's cool.
Yeah, for probably about 2 years.
Did you hang out with Steve Olson at all, or
yeah, dude, he lived right around the corner. You know,
was he cool? What would you guys get into? Was he, because he was that before or after he was in a band for a little bit, right?
He was at that point. He was in a band called Cowboy Zero, and he's the one who showed me that pink is punk. You know what I mean? He'd be wearing hot pink shirts and stuff.
Rad.
Pink, I was like, it's punk. What else can you argue that, you know? And then there's this guy named Sothera. He used to be in Crucifix. And Bryce Knights used to play bass in Crucifix.
That's right, yeah.
Sothera lived with Olson. But yeah, we'd go to a lot of parties. Dude, I remember like skating Bruno's Banks. Like seriously, he could barely talk. Like super drunk, and I could barely stand. And dude, the parking lot for Bruno's is potholes, it's all messed up. And he had those big like city street wheels, you know, and a longboard, the SOS board, and was doing fucking G turns at the top, dude, or slamming that curb, and then he'd come back and he'd be all, he couldn't even talk, dude. You know, or like following him down. Like Mission, like on the sidewalk, and he's cutting into stores and zipping by baby carriages and stuff, and I can't keep up. No way, I got to get on the street and mess with buses and stuff because I can't. He's like, it's like a cartoon, dude.
Oh wow.
Really great, like. But he loved music, dude, and like showed me Louis Jordan. We'd listen to Prince together. Yeah, he liked a lot of different stuff, like me,
Eclectic, huh?
Exactly.
Nice.
And that's what I love, you know what I mean? Because I can't listen to punk rock or metal all day or whatever.
Same.
I can spend days getting into it, but then I gotta, check some other shit out.
Yeah, my records are all over the map. I got so many different styles. I mean, from reggae to rap to rock to punk to classic jazz. There's all kinds of stuff. Like everything, every genre has something amazing.
Seriously,
like every genre has good musicians playing something really. Have you ever heard of Mahavishnu Orchestra?
Oh, yeah.
That shit blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Rush on acid or something, just like fucking kick-ass fucking crazy instrumentals and stuff.
Yeah. No, that's some stuff that you go out there with it, dude. It's perfect for painting or just whatever.
Yeah.
Chill, playing with your dog or whatever, like.
How many gigs do you think you've played with every band you've been in and stuff? Like, it's got to be like gazillion.
Yeah, I really don't know, man. Because I've been playing professionally, like getting paid to play since I was 14. Yeah. My first gig was like, because I knew how to play trumpet and I knew how to play bass. And it was for like some Easter Sunday gig at some church. They came to the school. They said, hey, we need trumpets and bass players. And me and my buddy were the only guys that wanted to do it. And I think I got paid like $50 for bass and 25 for trumpet or something. They did some deal
when you're young.
And I just had to go to 2 practices, and it was seriously like 2 or 3 super easy Christmas songs, And then Los Olvidados started playing around the same time. One of our first gigs was at the Hotel St. Clair, this little lounge. And I remember my mom and dad went, and they had those little round tables. They're sitting there, with their cocktails. And we were right in front of them. And I don't know what they were thinking, but we were loud as fuck. And the owner came over, and he's just all, well, hey, you guys got to turn down. And I look over at Mike Fox, and he mouths to me, turn up. So we turned up, and then the guy came back with our money and paid us. He's all, okay, guys, good night. And then the next time we came, he taught me this other technique. So the guy comes over. Amazingly, they're going to let us play again, but we're supposed to turn down, right? He comes over, tells us to turn down. And then Mike showed me this thing called the ghost knob, which is you put your fingers around the knob, but you don't touch it. And you just turn down like that. And the guy will be like, oh, okay, perfect. Good. Like you turned it down, but you didn't. You're just ghosting it. That's the best. But you're not good. It's good. Okay, cool, dude. Right on. But once again, we got paid to not play. And which was some of the first gigs, just like.
What's one of the all-time favorites?
That's funny, dude. I was thinking about that. And I think usually it's like parties. You know what I mean? Because people are like right in your face, and
Charlie's Ramp.
Yeah, something like that. Steve Hex, or just some random birthday party, some guy's garage, that's the stuff that I remember because people are right there, and
but there's not something like you're like, dude, we got to play with AC/DC or, like one show where you're like, we're going to Vegas to play with Descendants or, whatever.
Well, I mean, like with that, I think like I kind of got like impressed and with all the rock star stuff, like early on. And then like, okay, they're either like good live or they're not. It doesn't matter that there's 20,000 people here or 1,000 or 100 or 10. Like how it's planned. You know what I mean? And for me personally, the bigger the stage is, the harder it is for me to hear. If you think about, Cab or whoever who's usually right here is now way the fuck over there, counting on this monitor to hear him, the monitor to hear the kick and the snare. You know what I mean? You want to be entertaining and walk around the whole stage, but chances are you have to stick around your bass amp to hear it.
Okay.
It's not always luxury, dude. The big stuff isn't like better. You know what I mean? And even for the fan, it doesn't mean like it's going to sound better. I've always tried to play like better than the last show. Personally, that's always my goal. You know, the last time I actually played was with Clay Wheels for a man party. And I had just got out of the hospital with COVID. And it really took everything I had, dude. And I was probably about 80%. Where I was like feeling dizzy and couldn't really sing loud enough and stuff like that. And my bass, which is an old guy, it's 78, it's heavy. You know, it's probably about 15 pounds, or I don't know. It's pretty heavy. And that after a while, it took its toll. You know what I mean? So like, I know like what I'm used to expending on a show and what I can now. And it's part of getting old too. You know what I mean? And plus there's the memory, you know, like lyrics are hard for me, dude. For my hands, like magically will go to the right notes usually, or I'll figure it out pretty quick. My brain will go, okay, it's an A or a G or whatever, you know. But like lyrics, I'll repeat whole verses if I have to, dude. You know, I don't really get to skate anymore. Like I'm pretty much down to one eye. And I know some people can do it, but I just have a hard time with dimensional kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Can't really drive anymore. So there's a lot of different limitations, you know, that I have now as I get older. But I do look back like right now, you know, like with so much like fondness and love, you know, from my friends.
Mofo said to ask you who broke your favorite bass.
Fly. Robert Shoffley. Well, it might have been Mo. You know, I don't know. I guess one day he broke. He came into my house with a bunch of dudes, and I guess all the ones I remember is him and Fly, and they thought they could just have a jam out or whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody set my bass down or didn't set it down, and it went down on the neck, and one of the tuners was bent. Still is to this day. You know what I mean?
Did you want to talk a little bit about your COVID experience?
Well, dude, all I could say is this, you know, and I was thinking about like what, you know, I wanted to tell people is that, you know, your health is wealth, and we all have our own genetic problems.
You were in the emergency room for a while, right?
Oh, dude. Well, see, here's the thing is I have diabetes, and this is really kind of where it started, you know, and I got it when I was about 35. And I never really knew that my family had it, you know. And, you know, they're usually like short, fat Mexicans, you know, and I was actually the one in shape, you know, but it's kind of weird. But I guess I did drink a lot of beer too. So I got it when I was 35. And then, you know, I had some different problems along the way with my feet and different infections and stuff like that, that I ended up in the hospital a few times. And then eventually, you know, probably about 3 years ago, they found out that I only had 8% of my kidneys working. So that's out of both kidneys, dude, only 8%. And the doctor like ran to the other room and got me some pills. I saw him run, dude. He's all, take these right away. And he's all, you need surgery, you know? So the next day, you know, my wife and I got married. The next day I got on her insurance. And the next day I was in the hospital, you know, for kidney, you know, treatments. And then they're all, dude, you need to be on dialysis, which is the worst ever, dude. I wouldn't want my worst enemy on it, dude. It's really horrible.
Side effects?
Oh, yeah, dude. It's just like you feel like you have the flu, you know, after every time you have it, you know, both ends. You know, like if you had plans, you got to change them. You know what I mean? And I had to miss, the first time ever I've had to miss a gig. I was supposed to go down and play for Alan Losey, and I only made it to Gilroy. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do it. Luckily, Caballero plays bass, so he subbed in for me, and they were a 4-piece, and they got to do it, you know. And I'm so glad, because if they would have had to cancel, I would have felt horrible.
Yeah.
You know, it felt horrible enough, but it was pretty bad. So then finally, my wife saw, and God bless her, you know, because she saved my life so many times. She said, we need to get you a kidney, you know, and I got on this waiting list. It was like 10 years. Okay. So we're talking 10 more years of dialysis, you know,
Mm.
Oh man, I don't know if I could pull it, you know. She checks it out and she's able to give me her kidney, which is just beyond miraculous, Schmitty. That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So anyway, so we get the kidney transplant. It's a good like 6 months of recovery. You know what I mean? It was really hard, really hurt. But I'm good. And then we went to get our COVID shots, and I'm convinced that's where I caught COVID. Because originally I went to the fairgrounds in Santa Clara. There's a good 500 people there, you know, a lot of them coughing or whatever, and I was fully masked up. But when I got to the front of the line, they're like, "Oh, you had a kidney transplant, bro? You got to go to Levi Stadium and get the shot there," which they were able to line up that day. But still, it originally took me 6 months or some crazy thing, you know. Anyway, so I get it that day, and I think I'm going to be waiting outside in the grandstands, you know, after I get my shot. But they have us in this one like kind of VIP lounge room I didn't feel really good about. And I don't know if it was the shots or whatever, but the next day I started feeling really bad, you know, like seriously the next day. And for the next week, barely hungry, super tired, could barely breathe. My wife took me to Stanford, and they're like, "Oh, you're good," to my wife. And they're like, "You're not, you're staying here." And they took me to ICU immediately, dude. And they're rolling out dead bodies, dude. It got heavy, like instantly, dude. Really hard, but dude, scariest. You know what I mean? The antibiotics they had me on and the steroids and shit would just give me psychotic, crazy terrors. You know, not even like,
especially at a time where nobody really knows like what's going on anyway, like, you know, and then to be caught up. How long were you in there?
27 days.
Fuck.
Yeah, a long time, dude.
I remember seeing little photos and stuff. Like you were getting a lot of love, yeah?
Dude, that really pulled me through, dude.
I felt like you told me that like a lot of feeling those vibes like really helped.
It's real, you know. I was really good friends with Mark Waters, you know, and I still am. I still love that guy. I miss him so much.
Yeah, same.
I couldn't believe when he passed, you know. And dude, I thought of all of my friends that have passed, you know, skaters and musicians and stuff, you know, and just felt like they didn't want to see me yet. You know what I mean? Like where that is, whether it's heaven, hell, universe, or whatever, like it just wasn't my time yet, you know. And I had a lot of really weird thoughts and, you know, a lot of really dark times in there. Like literally couldn't see people's faces with the masks and on their suits and stuff like that. But my kidney doctors would come see me and they would tell me, "We want you to make it, Ray. You know, we want you to get well," you know, and just random nurses, you know, like they have these nurses called travelers. You know, I met guys from Rwanda, you know, people from Georgia, people from Nova Scotia, just like all over the world, you know, some of the nicest people I've ever met. You know what I mean? I still don't even know their first names. And like, you got to fight for your life, you know? And one thing that I did, dude, was I wouldn't listen to like any music that I knew. I would just listen to new music. And I just kept it on that tip to keep my brain stimulated. Because it didn't even matter if I listened to Slayer or Metallica or fucking the Carpenters, the shit would make me sad. I would just get melancholy about anything.
Right.
You know? Like, fuck, I'm never going to see them again or whatever. But if I listen to something new, I'd be like, what are they doing? You know, or whatever, or just get tips from friends about, hey, what's a new record or whatever. Because I never turned on the TV and I barely watched any YouTube or whatever. You know what I mean?
Last thing you want to do is watch the news.
That's it. I didn't want to get into that influence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got to stay positive.
Right.
And for me, is like listen to jazz or some out there KFJC shit or Mahavishnu or whatever, stimulating stuff, you know?
That's a really good philosophy, dude. That's a good mind exercise, even in just day-to-day life. Like sometimes when I'm feeling depressed and I hear a song, it does give me melancholy and I don't even know why. But to catch yourself and say, hey, it's time to listen to some new shit because these are new adventures. This is a new day. Like to keep it because you got to keep the up, even as low as everything gets. Sometimes you got to just like figure it out and like take the best out of that crumb or whatever it is.
Right, dude. And even like black humor, you know what I mean? Because like sometimes I see these news stories, like my mind will still think of something to me that's funny, but actually really dark, and I probably shouldn't say it out loud. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like that might be a negative thought, but I'm not putting it out there. I'm just thinking, you know, and that's kind of the way I think about art too, dude. And maybe life. Like, okay, there's like worst case scenario and there's best case scenario. You know what I mean? And if you look at that with art, you can go, okay, I could use fucking blackest black, matte black or whatever, or fucking neon yellow. You know what I mean? But chances are I'm going to use something in the middle. You know what I mean? And that's what it usually comes down to. Like your brain will think, oh, the worst case scenario, I'm going to get fired or whatever. Best case scenario, I'm going to get a raise. Well, probably none of those are going to happen, but maybe something in the middle.
Maybe you're going to keep your job and keep going.
Right. You're not going to get a raise at anybody, but you're not going to get fired either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you better straighten out or whatever, and something in the middle is going to happen. Maybe you might get yelled at, or maybe the boss is going to give you the vibe you or something. You know what I mean? But like in general, like, and I think as an artist, or as least as a musician, like it's important to try like different things. So say like you write this song, you're like, yeah, man, it's a good rockin' tempo or whatever. And then you go to lunch and maybe you hear fucking Hank Williams. You're like, you know what? That song might be better country. You know what I mean? And then you start doing a country thing, and then you hear Dolly Parton. But you know what? I might do it the way Dolly does it. You know, and it just kind of keeps going. But like and then the next day you're like, you know what? That song's a black metal song. You know, and you change it. You know what I mean? And then eventually maybe it's country black metal or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just good to look at the extremes, you know, but like just being an experienced person or having basic wisdom, knowing that probably either of those extremes aren't going to happen. But as an artist, it's okay to think like, woohoo, you know, like that's out there, dude. And maybe that's what you need to paint, you know, or draw or write.
Well, I got to ask you what the best shit you ever saw happen at Grier is. Because you were there for many things, probably a lot of shit that didn't even get documented. Like you were there. What? Okay,
dude, I'll tell you one. And I wish I got these guys' names, and maybe I even know them.
His name's Phil Shao.
No, Phil was amazing, dude. Absolutely. God bless you, Phil.
Yeah. He was wicked fresh.
I don't know. Just sometimes, like, well, this one time I got there really early. I had to get there at 8 a.m. or something pretty early, right?
Uh-huh.
And I got there, and I just remember this fucking Camaro or Trans Am or something hitting that dirt lot, you know, next to the park.
Right.
And doing donuts and whatever, its own one-man sideshow. And they stop, and it's a bunch of Texans get out, right? And, you know, the main thing why I was there was to enforce PATs, right? So, and nobody wanted to hear that, right?
It's the biggest con job ever.
But these guys had full pads. So I'm like, oh, cool. And dude, they instantly started ripping. And dude, I don't know who the dudes were. They didn't really talk to me. I didn't really talk to them. Just, hey, what's going on? You know, the license plate said Texas, and they had a drawl, and they all ripped. Dude. They all of them ripped. And maybe it was Todd Prince or whatever, but actually I'd known him, Todd, since 85, and Gibson, a lot of those dudes, but I didn't know who it was. But these guys, like, for never being there before, and I know they had never been there, shredded the shit out of it. But the main guy that I know for sure who it was Chris Miller.
Shout out.
When once again, just showed up in the morning, dude. And I know he had never been there before, and was just bombing these huge airs hip to hip like Fed used to be able to do. Remember? He'd go from the shallow bowl and then pass the island and then bam, hit that other one. Dude, but Miller was seriously going like 6 feet, 7 feet out.
That's the urban legend was. So Phil went over we called them the tits because they were two little things. It was where a lot of people would come in, and Grier goes either clockwise or counterclockwise, and there's this area called the tits, and Phil ran and ollied over the tits. But urban legend was that Chris Miller did it the other way, out of the big bowl into that little short zone. but no, it was never filmed or photoed. But like people have said, no, someone was there, they saw it, this and that. It was always the Chris Miller session that no one saw was always like one of the fucking big ones.
I was there.
You know who ripped that place? You probably saw him. He stayed at our house for like 3 months. Is this guy Christian Brocks?
Shout out.
I remember that name, dude. Who did he skate?
I think he was maybe Norwegian. I don't know where he's from, but he stayed in a tent in our house when we live in Menlo Park, and he skated. He would do nose grinds and shit on the island, and like he ripped it.
There was so much ripping there. Of course, Ox. Nobody could like him. You know, that was always amazing.
Oh, Pete skated like nobody else. 4-wheel slides across into the bowl like. Rah!
I'm glad that got captured, dude, because that's so hard to explain. You know, he came up to me one day, and I had already like, this is when he was skating like a ski, when he had his feet parallel. Do you remember that, dude? When he first started coming there, and he would kick turn by pulling up the back or nose of his board.
Yeah.
What the hell? We loved watching him skate, right? And then one day he's all, hey, what's your name, man? I'm like, Ray. He's all, Ray what? I'm like, Ray Stevens. He's all, dude, were you like in Los Olvidados? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh my God, dude. And then he sat there and we talked music, you know, till it started getting dark. And I'm like, well, dude, you know what? We can go get a burrito after this, but I really want to see you skate, man. So why don't you go skate? You know, and we became like best friends really fast, dude. And we go see like a lot of Latin shows. He knows a lot about Latin music, Eddie Palmieri, Benny Velarde, like a lot of stuff. And then we saw the Gits, like so many good like punk rock shows. And then the bands would play together. You know, we've done some recording together. I DJ'd his wedding.
Oh, sick.
You know, Zarosha's another like, dude, that guy's an original. You know what I mean? Like,
Definitely.
Yeah, seriously, great.
Los Olvidados and Drunk Injuns.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite song to play from each band?
I guess Los Olvidados, I like So Dull a lot, mainly because it's got a little bass solo in it. I love the words, and it's just kind of, it's not fast, but it's pretty heavy, you know? I guess with Drunk Injuns, probably Not Forever Years. I wrote a couple slower ones, one called Aram, which is Maria backwards. And I guess it's some girl that worked at Thrasher that wrote it for.
I know Maria.
You know, at the time, people didn't really like it or accept it. Same with Odd Man Out, dude. People they wanted to hear punk rock. You know what I mean? And we just came in. I mean, we've always liked a lot of different stuff, you know?
I love Your Mama, She's Got a Gun, Program.
Yeah, those are still heavy to me, dude. You know, and I hear other bands that like kind of ripped off some of those riffs, you know, like there's like Queens of the Stone Age did that one song, down. What's the name of it? I'm so bad with titles, dude.
But you can hear the influence.
Oh, totally. The chord changes are there, but then I think, well, fuck, dude, we ripped off the Stooges. You know,
everybody rips off everyone. I mean, NoFX ripped off RKL big time.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that's just the way it goes, you know? So that's cool in a way. It's just like, all right, they tip the hat to you, you know, and that's all right, you know? But, and then at one point, Mike Fox and Matt Etheridge left the Drunk Injuns, and it was Mike Voss, myself, Mofo, and Mark Gonzalez, who was the drummer from Odd Man Out.
Oh.
Super talented guy. I can never say enough about him because we always clicked and always wrote music whenever we got together. Always. Easy, you know? But we wrote a handful of songs that never really got released, you know, maybe on demo format, you know? That was pretty cool. Just a little bit different sound for the Drunk Injuns, you know? And I thought that was a cool little period, but
with really Mo on vocals?
Yeah, it was Mo on vocals. It was basically the Drunk Injuns, 3 other Drunk Injuns with a new drummer, you know, instead of being a 5-piece, you know.
Do you guys have material that was never released?
Yeah, a little bit, you know. There is some stuff, like I said, that stuff, you know, that I would love.
I feel like that might be a cool project for you, is to like put together, like, you know, unearthed from your collection, like produce like a little, like, because dude, I don't know if I have to tell you this or not, but a lot of people love the Drunk Engine.
That's right, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks, Schmitty.
Yeah.
No,
Thank
it's
you.
true, man. Like all the young skaters, they know about it somehow. Like it's a generation under me, and they're like Andrew Allen, it's his favorite band, like people
Cool.
love this shit. So it'd be cool to like, I think even I talked to Mo about it. Like he said, he has different versions of some of the songs and stuff. Like, I think, like you said, like take advantage of that stuff. Like it's gold.
Yeah, you're right. I need to set up a band camp for like some rare releases,
Yeah, I think so.
What I can tell you is they did this benefit thing for me after I got out of the hospital in Newark.
Right.
And that was really cool. The Cement Eater and the Curb Creeps and Devil Sliders played.
Wow.
And I had like started doing demos and helping out the Sliders, getting some stuff on Bandcamp, just recording them. And those guys are great. We really love those guys. They're my family. So they're like, oh, yeah, okay, Ray. Because I learned all their songs because their bass player quit. Their bass player was 10 years old, dude, coming down from Marin to Santa Cruz. And finally he's all shy in it, and they had some gig booked at a radio station. And I'm like, you know what, man, I'll sit in on this gig, if you guys want me to, and help you out so you don't have to cancel the gig. And so I learned all 13 songs or whatever. And then they're like, hey, Ray, can you learn some Black Sabbath? And I'm like, nope. I'm all, you got to learn one of my songs. And they're like, oh, okay. So then they come back the next week and they're like, okay, we got 2 Drunk Injuns songs we want to do. And I'm like, oh, cool. So they want to do Y Camp, that instrumental, and For Real.
Oh,
and
right.
I'm like, yeah. So we recorded it. And, Coulter at the time, like, his voice is pretty high still, And I'm like, you know what, man? I think I might be able to get Mofo down here and let him do the vocals on it, And they're like, yeah, that's cool. And then by the time he got there, I'm like, you know what? Let's do a call and response. You do one line and then Mo does the other line,
Right.
It's pretty easy, just ideas. Let's try it, And they're like, yeah, sure. So my wife was in the other room and then we were done or whatever, we left. And then my wife's all, well, who was that girl singing? Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, I heard Mofo, but who was the girl? And I'm like, dude, that was Coulter, man. His voice is still high, And she's like, oh, it sounded like X, like a girl guy singing. But anyway, so long story short, so during that Newark thing, I saw that Mofo, was there and the Devil Sliders were going to play. And I'm like, I go up to him like, hey, dude, Mofo's here. Do you guys want to do those Drunk Injuns songs? And they're like, yeah, sure. I'm like, you know him? They're like, yeah, we know him. I'm like, okay, cool. So then whatever, they're like, yeah, we've got special guests. And then we came up and did it. And it sounded great, dude. Like those kids can play, you know what I mean? And it with Mofo singing and me playing, it sounded like we'd been practicing, dude. Because a couple people, you guys were tight, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, we've actually never even done this live. You know what I mean? It's always been like some kind of little studio thing, So in my heart, what I'd love to do is do a project with those kids and me and Mofo,
That'd be sick.
It's just been hard to coordinate everything, Mo's like caregiver for his mom and stuff, and much respect. But Crabtree, dude, that's the other guy killing it, huh? Older he gets, the better he gets, right?
I just talked to him yesterday.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he said to ask you what you learned about 280 rest stops.
I'm sleeping, burning. I don't know.
He said he found out it was like a hookup spot for dudes.
I guess it is. Now, I remember a Dirty and a Donut, so you guys played some ripping gigs, right?
We played one in San Jose with the Vibrators.
I got drunk that night.
Was that at that music club? Where was that
I
at?
think it was at Corey O'Brien's club. What's it called? Blank?
The Blank?
Yeah. We played a bunch of shows, but that was our best. Like that was like playing with the vibrators. We felt like we were legit. We played at the Caravan a bunch. We always loved that because they would just give you open bar the whole night.
Hello, my friend.
And then we played a bunch of like house parties like Charlie's and those types. And then we played I think we played 3 shows in SF.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was me and Mike got to know each other good.
Yeah. Krabby's great, man.
He's the best.
Yeah, Vibrators, that's one of my first punk records, dude.
Really?
Yeah, Pure Mania. So great.
We kind of have a little debate, all-time American rock band.
Leonard Skinner.
Leonard Skinner?
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the first bands I have ever seen, dude.
Okay.
I mean, you know what? Because, like, here's why. For one, they always sound rad live. You know what I mean? And as much as I like Led Zepp, I got plenty of bootlegs of them sounding like shit, dude. You know, I think in a way, like, Skinner is what Zepp like tries to be like. You know what I mean? Maybe not exactly like Southern rock, but like Americans playing bluesy hard rock. You know what I mean? And I kind of think that's what Zeppelin, yeah, they got their mystical shit and Misty Mountain Hop and all that stuff. And I'm not slagging it, dude. I'm just saying that Skinner like delivers, you know, and they had a really wide range of songs too, dude.
Whoa, slow it down.
One thing that I recently learned was I don't know how much you like Neil Young, but he's got this killer song called Powderfinger. And, you know, in Sweet Home Alabama, how Skinner kind of talks shit about Neil Young.
Yeah.
That actually they were friends.
Yeah.
And that Neil Young had wrote Powderfinger for Skinner. But there's no demos of that or nothing. I did some searching the other day.
I hope Neil Young will remember.
Right, exactly. The other man don't give a damn anyhow.
Well, dude, thanks for taking so much time.
Yeah, dude. Sorry, I fucking talked too long and didn't answer your questions.
I love the cab one. That's my favorite.
No, dude. I mean, I'm definitely stoked that he's still rocking and got like, you know, his new band going on. You know, good for him. You know, and that all my friends that are playing, you know, that still want to play or that skating, that, you know, can still skate, you know, and just the whole like community is all like kind of one thing, you know, worldwide, you know, and, you know, it's because of Thrasher, like did those skate rock tapes, you know, and put out those videos, you know, and
that early video is insane.
I love that one, dude.
The Tales of Terror and yeah.
Crazy, like psychedelic effects and stuff. Or Dr. Video or whoever that guy was. I met him once.
Video Captain Video.
That's it. That's it. I mean, we could talk for hours, dude, just about Thrasher, just about one band or whatever, but I'm just blessed that I got to do all the stuff that I wanted to do, you know, and like, you're right. There is still more projects out there and there's still a lot of stuff. The thing that, you know, I tell people now and like guys that are in bands and younger dudes, it's like, dude, it's more important to be nice than to be cool, you know, because everybody has a certain thing about being cool and whatever. But really, you know, I'd rather be remembered as a nice person. You know, they try to help people and whatever. And yeah, I'm not always like that 100%. You know, we're all human, you know, and I was telling my friend this the other day, dude, like in hip hop, you know, to be a true B-boy, you know, you used to have to rap, you know, DJ, breakdance, and graffiti, right? To be a real B-boy. You know, there might even be one more that I don't know about or whatever, but I'm just saying. And then like, yeah, skateboarding has no rules, but if skateboarders like made their own shit to skate, made their own zines, made their own music, and then shared it. That's the main thing, you know, is sharing your spots, sharing your music, sharing your zines, getting it out there. It creates real community, you know what I mean? And real bros and places that I could sleep in Scotland or those guys can stay over here, or Chile, or Canada, or Alviso, or whoever. You know, there's just that brotherhood, that connection, you know? And yeah, not everybody's cool. Some guys are going to rip you off, and some things aren't going to go totally killer. But like in general, if you keep your stuff like that and think about skateboarding in a big sense like that, where like if I do a little bit more, like make my own ramp or my own zine or my own song, and I'm down to share it, how could that hurt? You know what I mean?
You just influence somebody.
You can tell me to fuck off too. I don't know, personally, dude, when I put up stuff on Facebook or whatever, I'm not even on Instagram, you know, and I might be blowing it or whatever, but I would just rather put stuff that I've done.
There's no right or wrong at skateboarding.
You know what I mean? I'm not totally down to like, oh, this is what I'm eating right now. But yeah, right on for what you're doing though, Schmitty, because like really that helped me a lot, you know, and just it made me laugh a lot, dude. Watching Eric J and just, you know, different things you had on there, you know. And
what's one that you liked the most?
Probably Mofos, dude, because actually I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know before.
Really?
You know? And it's just really interesting hearing those old Thrasher stories about, you know, how he was, you know, doing it.
We need Mofo Part 2.
But the Pete the Ox one was great too, dude. Like really, dude, you've done some really good ones, dude. So congrats, Schmitty.
What song should we end it on?
You know, if you go to RS2 Solid Sound on SoundCloud, there's a song on there called Grey Kill Digital that it's actually a story that Jai Tanju wrote, and I turned it into a song, and Tommy Guerrero plays on it.
Sick.
And dude, I recorded it like in 2012 or something, but it's finally coming out on vinyl in the next couple months. So if you could dig that up, I'm pretty sure you could take it right from there.
Okay, we'll do that.
It's called Grey Kill Digital. Right on, brother. Thank you, Schmitty.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Talking Schmit. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. When you subscribe, you'll get notifications every Tuesday of new episodes the minute they become available. Also, please leave reviews and a 5-star rating. It's the best way to help the show grow. All of the episodes will always remain free, but if you would like to help support the show, you can do so at TalkinSchmit.com, where you can pick up some merchandise like t-shirts, beanies, hats, and stickers. The website has an entire archive of all of the episodes, with extra photos and videos. Email us with any suggestions, comments, or ways that the show may have improved your life at talkinschmit@gmail.com. All interviews are conducted, edited, and produced by Schmitty. The intro music is Mary's Cross by the band Nature. A very special shout out goes to the executive director, Sharal Camisa.
Shout out.
Love it! This is Talking Schmit, where the Rolodex is deep, but the conversation is deeper.
Keep the wheels greased.